Really great to have everybody joining today. Thank you guys so much. My name's Steven. Looking forward to spending, I would say, about the next hour-ish with you guys. I don't know that we're going to need the full hour, even though we've got it booked here. But uh, but before we dive in, I just wanted to touch on a couple of housekeeping items. So while this is a structured presentation, we really want it to be interactive. So if questions or comments come up as we go, please feel free to jump in. You guys, you will be able to use the Q&A function. You can see that the top bar of your Zoom window is going to have a more option with three dots in it. If you click that drop down, there's the Q&A. So as we go along, please feel free to ask any questions. We're going to have time towards the end for some more in-depth, robust Q&A. But if something comes up mid-session, do not hesitate to raise it. And like I said, if a question needs more discussion, we'll always revisit it towards the end as well. So no need to take detailed notes today as well. We're going to be sharing the slide deck and some key takeaways afterwards. So you'll have everything to reference. But with that, let's jump in. So before we get into the content, just wanted to quickly outline what you guys are going to come to expect and walk away with from today's session. So after the presentation, like I mentioned, you're going to receive project outline documents you can use to clearly define scopes and priorities before engaging contractors. You're also going to receive a contractor vetting checklist. Dave is going to take you guys through that more in depth in a little bit here, but really it's just to help design to, for you guys to compare bids, ask better questions, identify potential red flags early. We're also going to be sharing an AI prompt library as well. So these are just going to be simple, ready to use prompts that you guys can plug into whatever preferred AI tool you use to help evaluate proposals and kind of frame clearer communication. And then, of course, you guys are going to receive a copy of today's deck along with the recording, so you'll be able to revisit any of this later. But I'm excited to be joined today by Dave Nante, founder and CEO of WCP Building Renewal. Dave's bringing over 25 years of experience in the industry and a deep understanding of what actually drives successful contractor selection. He'll be sharing practical insights, lessons learned, just some key actions property professionals can make and take to make informed decisions and just avoid common pitfalls. So, and as mentioned earlier, I'm Steven. I am the business development manager at WCP. We also have our administrator, Lisa Garrett. She's joining the call. She's going to be monitoring the Q&A. Both her and I will be, but she'll be interacting with you guys on that Q&A directly. But since this is a web shop format, we'd love to keep things interactive. So just to get things started, take a moment, drop your name, title, company info into the chat, just so we know who's in the room with us. We always find that it's helpful to understand the mix of roles and experience we have joining us today. So I'm going to spend just quickly, like I said, maybe a 3-minute speed round just on who we are and some of our services. This is not a dog and pony show, guys, but I do feel that it is important for you guys just to be a bit more acquainted on who we are. So we do often get questions about our name. So I wanted to quickly touch on that. WCP is actually an acronym for Wolfgang Commercial Painters, which was our original brand. So the name now is just a nod to where we started and our 25 plus years in business. And over that time, our scope expanded well beyond commercial painting into full building renewal services. So hence why the brand evolved. But if you guys remember Wolfgang Commercial Painters, I find that that's sometimes a light bulb moment for people. So yeah, same company, just a broader focus today. Quick look and closer look at our exterior services. So this is typically where we're involved in larger capital projects and renewal projects. I would say we obviously do smaller maintenance projects as well as it relates to exterior of an envelope of a building, but our work includes concrete, wood, metal restoration, exterior commercial painting still remains one of our core services. Membranes of all kinds for parkades, for balconies, sealants and caulking, waterproofing. We're in Vancouver. That's a very sought after service of ours. Brick repointing, and then of course building inspections. And then on the interior side, this is another question I get. Do you guys do interior work? The answer is yes, we do. Our work is primarily focused on common areas and occupied spaces. So That includes drywall, texture repairs, interior commercial painting, finished carpentry, wall coverings and protections, and some design consultations as well. So much of that work happens in buildings where areas are still in use. So of course, planning, sequencing, communication are going to become especially important. But yeah, again, these are projects where the right contractor, the right process can make a significant difference in the outcome for you guys. I also just wanted to quickly mention something that we've been doing more of lately, which is lunch and learn sessions with team just like yours. So we'll come into your office, cater the session, and we'll walk your team through a topic that's most relevant to you. So that could be the content that we're presenting on today, or we've got other content items that we can tailor to make sure that it's more specific to your team's portfolio, your projects, or just challenges that your team is seeing. And we've hosted a number of these over the past while, and they've just been such a great way to connect, share practical insights, and just have some really good conversation with teams. So if you guys oversee lunch and learns for your office, or if you know someone who does, please feel free to reach out to me directly, and we can coordinate something that works for your group. Okay, so that was the lightning round introduction. So I want to bring things back to the focus of today's session. So the purpose of this presentation is going to help you guys to make more confident, informed decisions when you're selecting contractors, okay? Using both experience and AI tools, that is going to help support you guys in that process. So there's really three key focuses that we're going to cover today. First, we're going to walk through three basic stages of selecting the right contractor. Second, we're going to walk through and talk about some red flags or some pitfalls, just some critical warning signs to watch out for when you're reviewing bids or when you guys are evaluating contractors. And then third, yeah, I mean, just open Q&A, either throughout the session or towards the end. We encourage you guys to ask us any questions regarding either this presentation, current project scopes that you guys have upcoming, really just anything that can help we can help provide some insight on. So the goal of today's session is not to add complexity to your process, right? It's just to try and shed light on a clear framework that's supported by practical tools so you guys can reduce risk, just make better decisions with more confidence. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to pass things over to Dave. He's going to walk us through stage one, which is going to be defining your project requirements. Dave, go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thanks, Steve. And thanks everybody again for taking time out of your busy day to join us. I'm confident we're going to add some value for you guys in your how you select contractors, how you get projects started off on the right foot. So defining your project requirements, this is the first most basic step, but it lays the foundation to getting the right contractor in place. So what is the first step of getting your project requirements right? It's building out a project outline. I'm sure many of you have done this in the past, maybe not as sort of formally or robustly as we're going to suggest, but what this does is it's just a one-pager document that you can distribute to the contractors who are going to bid on the contract just to make sure everybody's on the same page. What we're going to talk about today applies to all service types, restoration types, roofing, painting, landscaping, irrigation system, like whatever you need, HVAC, it transfers to all of them and all size of projects from, operating projects to CapEx projects. So all size. This is not just for big jobs. You can use this stuff for smaller jobs too, to make your life a little easier. All right, so what does a project outline look like? We've got one here from you. We're going to share this with you. And as Steve mentioned, the session's being recorded, so you're going to get all this content. So basically, a simple project outline looks over six things: scope of work, schedule, specific requirements to bid on the job, who the main contacts are, when you're going to do your site meeting, and when you want the bid submitted, and when you're going to award the project. I want to zero in on a couple here. The scope of work. So we're gonna sort of go over how AI can help you with this, but This is a really simple scope of work. So it's like, say you're doing a townhouse complex and you're redoing the roofs. Just give them the number of units on the roof, the last time the roof was done. Is there any common buildings that are included or excluded? Maybe the type of roof that you're wanting to get pricing on. It's really simple, right? Just the basic idea of the size of jobs so contractors start to get a feel for it. They're going to ask you anyways, so you might as well get it in there right at the get-go. And then any special requirements you have. Like, do you need the contractor to furnish a certain type of bond? If this is a project that can only be performed after hours, then you put that in there because some contractors will say, I'm not interested, so why waste the time on getting the bid from them, right? Maybe you have to have criminal record checks if they're doing some facilities work, government facilities work, whatever it might be. Put that in there because that's going to start eliminating people and stop the time waste right off the get-go. So if you're building out a project outline for a type of service that you're not really familiar with, here's where AI comes in. So we've got here on this next slide here a prompt you could put in to help you build out an outline. So you can see here, and I see Steve put up a poll to see if you're currently using AI in this way or not. If not, now we can show you how to do it. So whether you're using ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, Claude, whatever your favorite one is, they're all going to do a great job. So here we did some prompting on a balcony replacement project, balcony restoration project on a high rise. You can see it gives you lots of ideas for what should be included and excluded in a scope of work, like lots of ideas on deliverables, timeline, warranty, budget constraints, all things you could put into your project outline. So, look, if you're not familiar with the service type and you've been p- tasked with administering the project or even managing the project, we all know as property managers, you sometimes have to do that as well. AI is your friend. Okay. So yeah, that's sort of all the data that you would need to put together a very basic project outline. So then number two is the second step of project requirements is pre-screening your contractors. We all know that the best way to find a great contractor is word of mouth. Or if you have a trusted contractor or a preferred contractor for a given task, by all means, that's your first go-to. If you don't, there's endless resources out there online for you to use to look for the right contractors. So if we look here at the next screen here, of course, we've now got AI. Google has built its Gemini right into its searching now. So if you prompt, I'm looking for a great HVAC contractor, it's going to pump out a bunch of lists that are different than like listings on a typical Google search. It's going to give you some background right there, right at the top. And then there's endless vetting and screening tools out there. I'm sure many of you have them at your given firms, whether that be Avetta, ComplyWorks, Vendor PM. Some of them are more focused on safety. Some of them are more focused on making sure contractors go through all the checklists before they even bid on your firm's project. Whichever one you're using, obviously a great place to start. Then there's the old standbys, BBB, WorkSafe. You would be shocked at when you do a WorkSafe inquiry at how many firms out there, well-known firms, while they have WorkSafe, they may not be compliant, meaning they maybe haven't paid their premiums on a timely basis. That is typically not a good sign. So a quick WorkSafe search. This is before asking for a clearance letter. You can see if they're keeping up with their bills or not. So lots of options there for you to choose from to help you choose who to bid on your project. But again, we can now utilize our good buddy AI. So we've put together here a prompt for you that you can go in and use to screen contractors, right? So basically, you're saying, I have this job. What should I look for in choosing a contractor to bid? And it's going to pump out all sorts of information for you to look at, things to check. And this is all before you've really done any reaching out or inviting. So it saves you so much time up front. So yeah, lots of options there for using AI to help you out. So if you go through and you're doing all this work online, again, this is all from your desk. You haven't picked up a phone to talk to anybody. You haven't sent an email yet. This is all just the research you do ahead of time. And utilizing AI, you can be super productive with it. If you do all this work online and you're finding people don't have a strong online presence, that's a red flag, right? In today's day and age, little or no online presence. Uh, they're not getting tracked with AI. It's not a good sign. Today online, everybody's transparent with their work, with their team, what they do, how they do things, awards and recognitions they've achieved, past projects they're really proud of. You should be able to get a really good feel. So if you can't dig them up online, just something to be heads up on. So we've put together a contractor vetting checklist to make this whole thing even easier for you. It's just a Google sheet or an Excel sheet. As you're doing your research, you go through, check all the boxes. It's going to pump out a score for you. You want that score to be 75, 80% or better. If you use some sort of checklist and it's pretty robust, and if you get a good score on it, you know you're inviting a good contractor to bid on the project. So, and again, I'll preface again, all these tools we're going to share with you can be applied to all service types and all job sizes. So super, super valuable and transferable tools. So that's it. That's stage one. Um, yeah. So maybe a quick pause there. Anything coming up on the Q&A, Steve, that we need to deal with?
You more or less touched on it. Yes, there was a question about AI prompts and if we're going to be providing that. Yeah. So we actually will have an asset library. We'll send you guys as a downloadable link. And really, it's just very basic prompts. You guys can take that, run with it. The more robust you make those prompts when you guys are leveraging AI, and I did a poll and noticed, a number of you guys are currently using it, so this might be redundant information, but the better the prompt, the more accurate your response is going to be. So
Great.
we're going to move into stage two, the tender meeting. First, I'm actually just launched a poll here because I'm interested, how many contractors would you typically invite to bid on a project? Is it one, meaning you have a go-to that, and obviously this would depend on the type of work. I'm sure it would also depend on the scale of the project, but where do you guys kind of find that sweet spot? Is it around three? So that can be like three or four. Is it five plus, or are you guys just typically doing one? So stage two, the tender meeting. I want to set this up with a quick example from a recent tender that we were involved in. And this one stood out because it was done so well. So the project requirements were distributed about 2 weeks in advance. That gave everyone time to review the scope, confirm availability, and come prepared with thoughtful questions ahead of the meeting. So that way, when we came together on site, all the invited contractors that were present, it was us and I believe about four others, the client walked us through the project in detail, right? They addressed addendums, clarified assumptions, and talked through priorities while, we walked through the building together. And that really just kind of gave us a full picture of the project, not just what was on paper, but also what really mattered as well, right? And as a result, everyone was pricing the same job with the same understanding. Okay, so that's what a strong tender meeting is going to do. It's going to create alignment before numbers ever come back. Okay, so that's what we're going to unpack in this section here. So the first step in a successful tender meeting is the administration piece. Okay, This ties directly back to the example I just shared. And in that case, project requirements were distributed well in advance. That made a huge difference because contractors had time to review the scope. Everyone was able to confirm our availability for the meeting, and then we all came together way better prepared, right? So that also meant the right people were in the room. Okay, so decision makers who could actually speak to the project. That way it was, clear timelines were set, questions, addendums, pricing really was all discussed. So that way there's no kind of confusion about what the next steps were. And again, because that admin was handled properly, that tender meeting itself was focused and it was very productive. So instead of catching up on information, everybody was able to spend that time understanding the project, aligning on expectations. And, I feel like that groundwork is really what set the rest of the tender process up for success. The second key part of the tender meeting is going to be the site tour, right? And again, tying it back to that earlier example, this is where a lot of that clarity was created. Okay. Because we were able to walk the site together, it allowed the client to point out priorities, it allowed them to point out constraints, areas of concern, and it was all done in real time. So it also gave us, from the contractor's perspective, a chance to ask better questions in real time. And then we could actually see conditions that don't always come through clearly in drawings or in written scopes. Right? We were also able to walk the site and understand, okay, is there going to be access issues, whether it's complex, whether we had to close certain areas of what was a parking garage down, right? So that shared on-site understanding, it just really helped everyone ensure that the pricing was going to be relatively consistent for the job, and it's not just based on documents, and it's actually based on what's really there. So a good site tour is going to turn assumptions into clarity, which is going to be critical at this stage here. And yeah, I mean, one of the biggest red flags we see at the tender stage is just poor communication from the contractor side of things, right? That can really show up as slow responses, unclear answers, or really just difficulty getting straightforward information. And it is important to note, right? It's not just a tendering issue. Poor communication at the start almost always makes a project harder at every stage, right? So if it's difficult to get clarity before the work actually begins, it's rarely going to improve once the project is underway, right? Construction projects, either they're, smaller or larger capex, regardless, they're going to be complex enough as it is. So when that communication aspect is breaking down, small issues are going to take longer to resolve. Decisions are going to get delayed, and ultimately, frustration is going to build across all stakeholders, right? Whether it be your tenants, whether it be the ownership group, right? That frustration is going to kind of fester. So clear, timely communication is going to be one of the strongest indicators on how smoothly a project is going to run. Okay, great. So we're going to take it home here. Last section, stage three. And I'm going to pass things back to Dave. He's going to walk you through the next part of the process. Now that we've done all the groundwork, let's actually go ahead and select the contractor and how to do that properly. So Dave, go ahead and take it away.
Right. So I'm guessing a few of you here have done the process of building out a spreadsheet comparing all the various variables of your bids on a project, especially on a bigger job if you're dealing with a strata. So the days of doing that are now gone. We're going to show you how to do that using AI. So selecting your contractor, so the reviewing and the shortlisting, what we were just talking about. Let's just dive right in here to this slide. And I think this is a great productivity booster and time saver. So bringing it right back to the beginning, and this is a part of the reason why you build out your project outline. You can upload to AI your project outline. You can upload any notes or anything from your tender meeting, and then upload the bids or proposals that you've received and ask it to do the work for you. So, rating the proposals based on the project outline, rating the contractor's strengths and weaknesses. Was there anything missed? How is the price broken down? What are the variances in the prices and why? What questions should I ask this contractor?
Mm.
Right? All of these things you can now just by giving AI a little bit of knowledge on your specific project, it'll do the work for you and then just say, turn this into a sheet, turn this into um, a spreadsheet for me, and then you just export it out and away you go. You're probably going to have to do a little bit of tweaking here and there, but this is a massive, massive time saver. I'm sure some of you are doing this already, and it's a great use of AI. So I'm hoping if you haven't done this, you can try it after this session here. So, you know, this is where AI is going to prompt a huge flag for you right off the bat. You can say to it, "Hey, do a red exclamation mark by anything you think is of major concern." And if it's saying after all this work, look, this proposal is lacking key details, probably toss it out. That's someone that is, especially if it's the low bid and it's missing details, you're asking for a world of hurt if you're going to select that one. At the very least, it's going to prompt you to pick up the phone, call the contractor, and say, "Hey, are you sure you're looking at the right building here?" or whatever it is. Yeah, so just a big heads up for you there. And then, on to the last thing. If you want to do this, you can. And it's just you shortlist your two contractors that maybe have a price within 5%. How do you choose? Well, you could interview them, quick phone calls after you've done your shortlisting. You might be thinking, well, what questions do I ask? Again, go to AI and say, hey, I'm choosing between these two contractors. What would be great clarifying questions to ask them so I can ascertain which one is the best one for the job? And
Mm.
you will come up with a litany of questions, great questions, just the finer detail stuff to make sure you're making the right choice. If you want, you could fire that out in an email and see how they respond, right? So, great use of AI there to help with your final step of selecting the best contractor for your job.
Okay, so bit of a breath. I know that sometimes feels like drinking from a fire hose, but lots of great information, guys. So what I wanted to do is just a speed round on review before we wrap up and just do a quick recap and yeah, just some key takeaways from today's, right? I know we covered a lot, but we covered how to really think about contractor selection in clear stages, what red flags to watch for, and what common pitfalls to avoid. We also talked quite a bit about AI and how it can be used as a practical tool to support better decision making, not replace experience or judgment. That's key. And the goal throughout really has just been to help you guys, reduce risk, ask better questions, and just feel more confident in your selection process. So, with that in mind, let's just review a couple of the main points. So, when we zoom out, the contractor selection process really comes down to three core stages. Okay. Stage one, defining your project requirements. This is where clarity is going to matter most, clear scopes, clear priorities, and just clear expectations before you ever go to market. Stage two, that tender meeting, right? We talked quite a bit about that, which is your opportunity to just ask contractors better questions, have them ask questions in return. You can align on assumptions so there isn't any, and just make sure that everyone is pricing out the same project and you're going to get very accurate bids coming back your way. Lastly, the last stage, right? Selecting your contractor with confidence, given the first two stages and all that information you guys have just taken in, right? Now you're making an informed decision, which is not just based on price. It's not, based on some, things that you may have otherwise made a decision on, but it's now going to be based on capability. It's going to be based on communication, risk, and ultimately fit. And yeah, when these three stages are handled well, the selection process just going to become way more consistent, more defensible, far less stressful. Yeah, pitfalls, red flags. So just a quick recap on these ones. Just some flags that you guys, want to pay a bit closer attention to. In the first, little or no online presence, right? This, simple Google search, search social media, see what, they're up to. If they have little to no presence, and that does not mean that a contractor needs flashy marketing. but you should be able to find basic information, right? Who they are, what they do, and just some examples of some past work. The second red flag, poor communication. I know we talked about that in depth, but just consider, slow responses, vague answers, difficulty getting clear information. If those things are happening early on, usually does not improve over once a project starts. Third one, proposal lacking details. Dave just touched on that. So if you've got a vague scope or if there's assumptions, right, and you've done everything on your part to make sure that those should be alleviated, and that's often where misunderstandings and change orders are going to start to begin. And then ultimately that's going to lead to scope creep, right? We've seen situations where a contractor came in with very low number. It happens, right? But the proposal was light on details. So on paper, it looks attractive. But then once the project starts, you start to notice gaps in the scope quickly turn into extra costs. That means frustration, leads to hard discussions that you have to have. So over time, we've kind of learned that upfront, or that clarity upfront, especially in communication and documentation, is going to be one of the best practices and predictors for how smoothly a project is going to run. I'd also say, red flags don't always mean a contractor is wrong. But when these signals happen, it's just worth slowing down and asking a couple more questions. So one final quick reminder, and I'm actually going to share a poll here, just in regard to a lunch and learn, quick reminder that we do offer these opportunity for us to come in, spend more time with your team. As mentioned, we'll provide you guys with a kick-ass lunch and just tailor a session to your team's specific focus. Just an opportunity for us to come in and engage with you guys on a bit more of a casual setting. So contact me to learn more. We're currently booking these into late April, early May, and have some opening for the fall as well. All right, so that brings us to the Q&A portion of the session. So I'll take a look at some of the questions here that we've got to address. But yeah, just any questions that may not have been covered yet, but I want to open this up more broadly. If you have questions about something maybe we covered today, or if you have a project coming up, something you're dealing with right now that you'd like to talk through, this is a great time to do that as well. So feel free to drop questions into the chat using the Q&A function, and to serve one up more like a softball here, I'm curious, and I know I asked, but is anyone currently in the middle of selecting a contractor for an upcoming project? And have you guys found any complications or red flags that we may have touched on today? But as we're doing that, just going back here, so yeah, I mean, one of the questions we had, and this one's kind of broad, and it's going to depend. Dave, maybe I'll touch on your expertise for this, but really it's about, who's taking responsibility to talk to contractors. Is that going to be the owner? Is it going to be the property manager? Who is going to kind of be that pivot point of communication when a project is ongoing?
Right. Well, we've over the years we've experienced any and all. Sometimes it's the property manager. Sometimes it's an on-site person for commercial work, facility work. Sometimes it's a strata person. Sometimes it's a consultant or an engineer. The key thing is, and we touch on this on other web shops we host on property management for property professionals. One person needs to be designated as the SPA, the single point of contact or accountability, as the project is ongoing. So it could be any number of people like I just listed, but if there's one person, it's going to make things a lot smoother and cut the back and forth and the endless redundant questions.
Yeah. Yeah, good answer. The other thing is too, we actually, speaking back to our lunch and learns and our content pieces, we actually do have a full presentation that is project management from the perspective of a property professional. So property manager, building owner. Ultimately, when these projects kick off, there is going to, your involvement is going to be required. And that's what you want, right? You want that communication to filter through you. So really, it's just about taking back that control, taking back that power, and just making sure that you're not only staying well informed throughout the process, but that way, when people come to you with questions, you're able to answer that effectively because you are keeping yourself well informed. So, another question for the audience. I see another one here I'm going to get to in a sec, but question for you guys on the call, was there any part of the process we talked about today that feels the most challenging or time consuming to you guys? Like what in the process right now when you guys are going about selecting a contractor feels the most daunting? But as you guys are answering that, I just wanted to go back to a question we had here. So a bit broad. So we may need to answer this in a couple ways, Dave. But really the question was, what kind of details should be given by a contractor? So I guess framing that as an example, if you're looking at a renewal project where there's concrete restoration work on the envelope of a building, how robust, of details should be given by a contractor approaching that?
Right. Good question. So, if it's a project that involves a third party or a engineer or consultant, the details you're probably going to get in this specific scenario are going to be, work will be performed according to ICRI industry standards. If it's more of a project where you're going, for strata and they don't want a third party consultant, then you should be seeing some really good details, how they're going to do the work, how they're going to do the restoration, what processes are they following, what materials are they using, and again, you know, as property managers, building owners, you guys are not construction experts, but sometimes you get tasked with this stuff. So if you're getting all these details and you don't know, like I don't know the difference between a two-part and a one-part urethane sealant or a membrane, this and that, Puma versus urethane. Just put it into AI and say, is it what's being specified here? What the building materials here, are these the right ones? And you're going to get some great answers, right? It's not going to be perfect. As we all know, AI hallucinates sometimes, but for basic stuff, it's going to help you out. It's going to
Mhm.
give you enough knowledge to make you dangerous to ask the questions if you're getting the right details. But yeah, so if the contractor is going to lead the process and there is no third party inspectors on the job, then you want to see a fair amount of details. Yeah.
Mhm. Great. And another question we had, Dave, come in. It was an answer actually to the question that I had asked about what feels the most challenging or time consuming in this process was the response was, just getting quotes from contractors and having them tell me what to do and what not to do. So on that piece, and like Dave just said, AI is going to be your best friend, and the prompt very simply will be upload whatever they've sent you. And then you can just say, what are some questions I need to ask back to gain some clarity here? And make sure that that communication, goes back and forth and you're asking them questions on their approach, their process, just anything that you feel like you're unsure of, make sure that you're drilling into that. And if they're giving you great answers coming back, that's a great sign. If there's vagueness coming back the other way, then I would caution that as a red flag, right? I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, a very specific example going back to waterproofing. If we've got people on this call that are overseeing parkades, you know how integral the membrane is to the protection of your building. So let's say you're doing a new membraning project on one of your floors because you had a leak, and the prices come in, and there's tens of thousands of dollars of difference and you're trying to figure out why, and you can easily put both the bids or three bids into AI and say, what's the difference here? Why is there a price point? And it might say, well, one person is using this type of membrane, the other person's using this type of membrane, and this type of membrane is typically three times more expensive, but you get three times the service life out of it, right? Oh, okay. And then you can go back and try to get apples to apples. So yeah, lots of ways to utilize AI as your co-pilot or super admin to help you dissect stuff that you may not have the experience or knowledge on.
okay. Well, before we let you guys go, really quick, just quick recap, reminder of the type of services we support both on the exterior and interior side. So if you guys have any upcoming projects that align with a scope on any of the services you see on the screen, we'd love a conversation to be considered to bid on that project. And then, yeah, I mean, just a few quick next steps. So, upcoming projects, like I said, where you'd value a second set of eyes, you're planning renewal work this year, we genuinely welcome the opportunity to get involved. So, if this session again would be valuable for your broader team, we'd love to come in and do a lunch and learn for you guys. And of course, if you have any questions after today's session, please don't hesitate to reach out. Continue to use us as a resource. We're more than happy to connect. And then, yeah, keep an eye out for an email that will include resources from today's session. So that'll be the slide deck, a recording of today's session, an AI prompt library, and as well as some of the tools that we outlined with you guys. But we really appreciate you guys spending the time with us today. We'd love to continue the conversation, but yeah, we know you guys are busy, so thank you again so much. We appreciate your engagement. Some great questions throughout the session today. Hope you guys are walking away with at least a few ideas and tools that are going to be useful in your day-to-day work. And hey, if anything comes up afterwards, don't hesitate to reach out. But thank you so much again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.